Why don't we call the meeting to order then and look at approval of the minutes or the agenda.
Okay.
Everything good on the agenda? Anything to add?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
All right, I'll let Aaron do that. Thanks, Aaron.
All right.
Did we call to order?
Yes.
Yes.
Really fast, I did.
Awesome.
Now approval of the minutes.
Now we need to take a vote. All those in
Oh.
favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And
Motion carried. Cool.
amen. All right. Now the minutes. You got a chance to look at the minutes? Is there any changes or additions to the minutes from the last meeting? Nope. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll motion that approve.
In a second?
I'll make that.
Okay.
Then you just go all in favor or any discussion and then all in favor.
All right. All in favor of approval of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Yay, minutes approved.
Mr. Van Tassel, nice to see you this
Good
morning.
morning.
Terry?
Good morning. I am Zoomified this morning. Too many Zoom meetings going on at the same time.
Well, welcome.
Yes.
I ended up having a meeting the other day where I was on 2 Zoom meetings at the same time.
Awesome. Well, we're all thrilled to see you, Bill, especially Terry.
Right.
All right. As soon as
Terry
I
was
can
doing
find my agenda here, I will get myself going here. What did I do with it? Oh boy, I had it up here a minute ago and now I lost it.
Just regular business is up next, Bill.
Okay. So moving on then to regular business, item number 1. And I would read it if I had my agenda, if I could find it. I don't know where it went. I had it right here in front of me.
I can read it.
That's how I launched the Zoom meeting.
Right. I'll read it, Bill. It's consideration.
Go ahead.
It's long. I'll read it. It's consideration with possible action to approve resolution 2021-06, conditionally awarding a contract for a housing project of the Housing Authority of the City of Green Bay, Wisconsin, and the University of Wisconsin Green Bay campus area, conditionally authorizing and providing for the sale of bonds for the financing of such project and providing for various further proceedings in connection therewith.
Wow, that's pretty official.
All right, so remember we had a visit from the University Village Housing Inc. folks proposing a campus project last month. They were actually showing us some interest and seeing if we were interested in doing some revenue bond work. So part of that process, after we approved at the last meeting, the resolution was we needed to go out for RFP for interested parties to submit a project plan to us. We only received one proposal, and that was from University Village Housing. It's the same proposal that was submitted before. I don't know, we have Keith Pamperin here at the meeting who's representing University Village Housing. And again, you remember Steve Cerubis is the architect for this project. So we can open up the floor if you guys have any questions about it. It's the same project that was proposed before. And you know what, if you're gonna open up the floor, Keith can give the spiel on what the project
I will make a motion to open the floor. Is there
I
a
will
second?
second that.
All right, so I have a motion and a second to open the floor. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Keith, the floor is yours, my man.
Good morning, everyone. We're really pleased to have the Housing Authority consider this bonding proposal again. This is about the 18th one that has come through the Housing Authority over the years. This is the largest resident hall and the most expensive that we will be considering. It's also the most well-designed, I have to say. Right, Steve?
I'm sorry, could you just repeat that again for the record?
But, you know, we think it's going to be a tremendous asset to both the University of Wisconsin Green Bay and the community for many, many years. So we hope you can consider this proposal.
Right.
And for any newbies on the board, Keith Pamperin was the executive director of the Housing Authority for how many years, Keith?
38.
38 years.
Ooh.
So, yeah, he was my boss when I started. So he's been through this process a lot.
Mine too. Mine too.
As well.
I remember,
Everything I know about housing, I learned from Keith.
Bill, I remember asking you to serve and you thought, well, you know, maybe a year or two.
That was 22 years ago.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you've done for housing in Green Bay over the decades. So any further questions for Keith before we close the floor? None?
I
Okay, is
do.
there a motion?
I just have a couple. This is
Go ahead.
Keith, this is Sandy. So I'm looking at stairs. Am I seeing an elevator shaft anywhere?
Right.
For the
Are you
building?
thinking elevators?
Yeah.
Yes. There will be 2 elevators.
Okay, good.
Can I, keep
I mean,
that
I
on?
just assumed it. I just don't see the shaft. So I'm thinking I saw the shaft, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure if that's what it is.
Is it a Cheryl or Bill or Keith for that matter? Can I?
Yes,
put
go ahead.
Oh,
Steve.
Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's 2 elevator shafts, Sandy. All of the suites are going to be set up to be barrier free and accessible. We'll of course only do the grab bars are only being installed in 2 of the suites
Okay.
at this time, but all of them are prepped for it, so they could all receive full ADA accessibility, and all of them have all of the clear floor space dimensions that will be required. So
Okay.
we have a meeting set up with the campus in a couple weeks for their inclusion and barrier-free folks. Like the UW system takes that very serious. So I'm going to be going over that with them too. It is above and beyond code minimum for accessibility and barrier-free conditions. That's not exclusively to appease you and this board.
Really?
That's
Oh, I feel
important.
bad.
Yeah, yeah. So it's certainly a component of the design and early goals.
Good. Yeah, because I've seen a lot of things like the Braille on the door numbers and things like that, which is really good. I was just wondering because I saw stairs in the middle. I'm like, are there elevators, or is that just one floor that's accessible and not the rest? So.
Nope, yep.
That's
Elevators all the way up and down.
Okay, good. Good. And then, so if I'm assuming then that they're all shared bathrooms, that they're all like level entry showers.
Yeah, so it's apartment style. So each apartment will have 2 bathrooms, one both bathrooms accessible, one with a roll-in shower. There's actually there's one suite that we had to use the transfer shower dimensions from ANSI 117 just how it works with the shaft that I need to have in there, but it's still by the rules accessible.
No, that's fine. That's great.
Yep.
Because that's probably one of the biggest barriers. I wish we would have see that all in all, any new housing going up. So
yeah, I mean the other piece of it is, you know, it's going to be commercial grade carpet tile, so it's not got the huge cushion that you sometimes see.
Yeah, that you would that would provide. So it is carpeted. It's not linoleum or a tile floor.
No, it's carpet tile, but you know, the like pretty low profile stuff, because
good.
Make sure that it's
clean. And we actually did that to Tom's office before he retired, and it's really easy to clean, you know, take off those pads if something gets on it that you can't remove the stain. So that is really handy. Great.
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
University Village Housing has a accessibility advocate on the board as well.
Good.
Me.
I was wondering, is that Keith? Well, I'm the voice for any structure that we put money towards, but I would just like to see it just being across the board for any development in Green Bay, but yeah, be so nice.
I don't,
Thanks,
If
this
I
looks really
remember-
great.
if I remember correctly, the policy that the Housing Authority created back when we first started doing housing mortgage revenue bonds for not only not-for-profits like University Village Housing, but
Right.
also for profits. I can't remember if we required or recommended that all of the first floor units be fully accessible.
I can't remember either, but the development that we've been involved when all incorporated that, which was really great, has been really great. I'm thinking overall, anything coming into Green Bay would be so nice. They would just make it accessible, just make it so much easier.
Mhm.
But yeah.
I mean, I'm here. I'll draw pictures for all of them. Keith can give him my card. It's
There you go. Yeah, nice job. They look very nice.
All right,
It's a
any other
beautiful
questions for
building.
Keith?
Yeah, I agree.
Any other questions for Keith before we close the floor?
Thanks, Keith. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, hearing none, is there a motion to close?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second
Is there a
that.
second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. The floor is closed and we're back to regular order of business.
And then just briefly, Chair, if I could, the resolution that
Yes.
you'd be approving today, it looks like the authority is going to be issuing revenue bonds in the amount not to exceed $25 million. That this project is a qualified project. There was documentation in this package that talked about the qualifications needed for revenue bonding, and it meets those qualifications. Well, we've selected UVHI as the developer for this project. We are going to begin negotiations with them with regards to how the revenue bonds will work and the income that the GBHA will receive as part of that. And that also in November, we will be holding a public hearing for comment as part of this process. And that'll be, I think, November 10th we're looking at right now. So we'll get that publicly noticed. And then I will also refer this to the Plan Commission, because I think the Plan Commission is a part of this approval process as well. So I will let them know that this has been approved. So that's the resolution that you'd be looking at approving today.
Okay.
So we have that in front of us. Are there any further questions regarding the resolution? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second
And I
that
will
motion.
second. Okay, Aaron seconds. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, continuing. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you all.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome, Keith.
Continue the good work.
Thanks. We'll try. All right, moving
Aye.
on to item number 2, consideration with possible action to approve phase 2 contract with Baker Tilly for consulting services for the redevelopment project at Mason Manor. Cheryl?
All right, so we're in the thick of it, folks,
Good.
with HUD processes right now. So Baker Tilly has gotten us through phase 1, which is really the whole assessment of Mason Manor, our capital needs, what those were going to be, how we were going to structure ourselves as an organization to make this work, kind of the front end stuff in phase 1. Now we need a phase 2 contract with them as well, because now the really hard work starts. I can say that because I've been in 3 meetings now with the developer, Baker Tilly, on this project, and I'm like, phew. And I've been in government for a long time. So the phase 2 contract that they're looking at working with us on, that was in the packet. It lists a number of things working on specifically the financing plan that we're going to need to set up, whether it's how we're going to do our financial mixes, the percentages of Section 18 to RAD, all of that fun stuff, the tax credit, working with the developer on the tax credits, working with HUD actually on those things as well. Any of the certs that we need, you know, when you do a RAD process, you have to set up a RAD resource desk with HUD to submit. There's so much paperwork to submit. You have to like set up a desk with HUD so that you can submit all this stuff. So working through that process, the commitments that are needed, working with the lenders, and then up to closing. And then also just working with the pro forma and the developers just in the last week, I think, right? Jamie and Stephanie, we became aware of a possibility of combining, you know, right now we're taking our section, our scattered site public housing, and we're pulling it out of the Faircloth. We're putting it under project-based vouchers, 48 units. We just found out recently that we can actually combine that process with this RAD process, which will get us a lot more money for Mason Manor. So we're like, what? That's and HUD thought it was a good idea. So, there's a lot of moving things happening in plates, but we need Baker Tilly on board. The way they've got the contract set up is that we'd have to come up with really 15,000 out of pocket, like right away, that we'd actually have to pay out to them. That would come from our unrestricted funds. And then we would get that 15,000 reimbursed at the closing through the development fees. And then the same thing with the balance of the funding, the 60,000, that would come at the closing as part of the development fees. So really, it wouldn't come out of our till, in other words. We're going to put it forward and then get reimbursed for it at closing, all of these fees. So our recommendation is that we continue with Baker Tilly on the phase 2 part of the contract.
Yeah.
You need a motion for that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'll make that motion to continue with Baker Tilly.
I'll second
that
it.
motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue phase 2 with Baker Tilly for consulting services for the redevelopment project at Mason Manor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the approval, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Now I'll move on to item number 3, consideration.
Chair,
Yes,
Chairman, can I clarify something?
sir.
And maybe you were muted, Steve, but you want to abstain from item number 1 in the vote, correct?
Yes, please. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay. No, that's okay. Just want to make sure we had that on the record that Steve was
Yes.
abstaining to number 1.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks.
That's okay.
So noted. So
So,
noted.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 3, consideration with possible action to obtain legal counsel for the RAD development project at Mason Manor. Cheryl.
Okay, so we hired an attorney in the past to help set up our secondary organization that, by the way, I'll talk to you about the director's report. But in speaking with Baker Tilly, they advised us that we really need to find an attorney that works with RAD, specifically in public housing authorities. We're probably not going to find that in Green Bay. They shared some names with us for some firms out of Milwaukee and Madison. But at this point, we're going to need to start negotiating on behalf of the authority and our secondary entity with the developer, you know, on how this project's going to work and, you know, how the payments are going to go, how everything's going to work. And we need someone who can advise us on the best interest for the GBHA. So our recommendation is that I'd like to get some quotes from some of these firms. I'd like our law department to vet those out, and I'd like to share those and get comments from Chairman Vandecastle as well. And if we can, I'd like to just hire the lowest qualified bidder for these attorneys and then hire them before the next meeting if possible. Do you see that? Like, do you think that's okay?
Hold on.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's essential, really. Do we need to repeat that exercise for the third party component of this, right? Somehow this board is also going to serve as a secondary board to whatever that cloud-based company would be to be the passing tone for those things. Should we have legal representation, making sure that that's sufficient and not exposing us to more risk. And maybe that's not the appropriate time for that question, but.
Well, let's get that attorney on for the GBHA. That board, which I had to write the name down, or our board is GBHA Properties Inc. is our secondary
Yes,
board.
nice. Yeah, we were gonna get t-shirts if I remember right.
So that board needs to meet. So I had planned to hold that meeting directly after this meeting in November, because the board needs to elect the officials for that board. Because Stephanie has some reporting to do on behalf of that organization. So
we'll need to come up with a fancy logo too. I think we had some discussion about that.
Logo, t-shirts, has t-shirts,
Coffee mugs.
So we
Right.
need to have are you talking like we need to have a chair for this sub board?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
We need to elect a president or a chair and a vice chair and a secretary and a treasurer.
And all of that's cool. I'm wondering if it should hire a lawyer. That's what I'm asking. Is that a question for next November?
That may be
Yeah.
a question that once we get this attorney on board, we ask the GBHA attorney if there should be a different attorney for the entity that's formed with the same membership.
Okay, and so your suggestion here is that the housing authority get prices for an attorney to help meander our way through the phase 2 of RAD. Is that where we're at here?
Correct, and the closing and actually the negotiation with the developer.
Okay.
And so would this be a consultant? Would it be a hired on attorney? Was that in the budget? Would they stay long-term, or would they just be for this process? What would that happen, Cheryl?
I see this as, well, when I say short-term, I would see at least the attorney that would take us through the process until we're completed with it. And we don't need the services anymore. So I didn't see it as a permanent position. That was your first question, right?
Right.
We'd hire the law firm to represent the housing authority. Minimally, we need that. So
Right.
I think the question is whether or not we need a different attorney for the second entity. And I'm not sure if we would. We're kind of working together. I can't imagine the housing authority would vote differently than the GBHA properties.
It's all the same members, so you'd have a hard time justifying going two different directions with that. So
couldn't you just?
I would agree with Cheryl. That's something we would just talk to that attorney about to see what he thinks or she thinks. The only other thing I would add is that in selecting this council, we're selecting professional service, the provision of professional services. So it's really not a cost-based analysis. So it's not like the lowest responsible bidder type thing. It's kind of the similar analysis that we went through when we hired or selected the developer that we selected, Gorman, when we went through that process. So we're really going to be looking for qualifications, not necessarily a race to the bottom in terms of who's going to charge us what. So
it's like a contracted employee, or?
No,
No?
it's a professional services consulting agreement.
Yeah,
Oh,
quality
so
based.
it's, okay, a consultant, okay.
Yeah.
Who's the most qualified?
So Cheryl, are you going to be able to make that determination and enter into an agreement before we get together next month? Or you want to, right, you want to get proposals and you want to get after it.
I do, but I also I will be working with our city attorney as well as Chairman Vandecastle to review these, I think. If we can look, I just play a lawyer on TV. So
yeah, no, right.
I really want to go to the people who know what they're talking about when it comes to the qualifications for legal services.
Yeah, no, I think that's brilliant. I only like to pretend when there aren't lawyers present.
Right.
I've learned with engineers the most condescending way to start a conversation with them in the professional services world is, I'm no lawyer, but.
Yeah.
Trying to play one on TV doesn't work.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
I play one on Zoom all day long.
Nice.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
we're looking at,
Hear them before the next meeting, if
Okay.
possible. And now may not be. If I can't get this wrapped up, if I don't get responses quickly or whatever, I'll bring it back in November.
Okay.
If I don't have it ready. So, but if I get a quick turnaround on some of these things, I know that Baker Tilly's advised us that we're at the point now where Gorman wants to negotiate on these development deals. So
I think the
December 1st or 4th date for those tax credits to be applied for.
so that's what that was going to be my question, is when would it be very, very necessary to have that attorney in place? Okay.
Well, because
All
they'll
right,
need to know the financing stuff before that tax credit application.
Right.
Any further questions?
Just one other one. Where is funding for the attorney coming from?
Unrestricted funds.
Okay.
And we have quite a bit of unrestricted funds right now. I know we've obligated 500,000 potentially to this project, this rad conversion, but I think we have another 300,000 or 400,000 stuff, right?
Okay.
As well. So we should be covered with those costs.
So then let's say, I mean, would you want something as soon as possible? Like, would there be a special meeting that might need to be called, or do you think you'd have it wrapped up for the November meeting?
I would like to hire the attorney based off of the recommendations from our law department and the chair of the GBHA without having to bring it back is my request. That's my request.
Okay.
If that's a problem, then I can gather that and bring it back to the November meeting as well. We were just advised from our consultants that you're starting to get into some areas where you're going to need somebody who's going to have to understand what, we're going to have a land lease potentially. What kind of fees can we get? All this stuff that's going to go into that agreement with our developer.
Okay, so as soon as possible is what you're talking about. So I would make a motion to approve hiring an attorney and working with Cheryl, the GBHA's legal department, and Chair Vanda Castle to make that determination on who that lawyer will be.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I know it was a long motion. Sorry, Bill.
No, that's
That's all right. We have a motion and a second. And any further discussion?
who was the second
Hearing
on
none.
that? Steve?
Jazz hands. Jazz hands on a Zoom.
Okay.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to section F, informational GBHA bills. Stephanie.
Hello, those are in your packet. There was nothing real wonderful this month, but next month there will be, we had some title services done, which was $8,000. Yeah, it's a little bit $19,000, a little over $19,000. But I did talk with our auditors and we were able to pull that from our capital funds. So that is covered, but that's next month. But there's nothing funny in this month, just normal bills.
What were those services for?
We had to, part of our section 18, we thought we were all done. Yay, we got approved. And then they're like, not yet. We need title on every one of your scattered site properties. So we had to order a title for each one of the parcels that we had and turn those in as part of the process.
And that title cost is based on the value of the properties, right?
Correct. Well, I think it was. It's usually, right? Or did they do it differently for us?
It's a statutory amount of $475 per property.
Minimally.
Okay.
Wow.
Minimum. And they charge us the minimum, which is really great. So It was just 41 properties at $475.
Excellent.
Mm.
That's a good deal. That's a good deal.
Yeah, yeah.
Even
Because
though,
when you get them all at once, it's a lot.
yes.
But it's
Kept
done.
some people busy at the courthouse. All right. Any further questions for Stephanie on this?
No, thanks.
All right. So without any further questions on the GBHA bills, we'll move to the GBHA financial report.
All right, that was also in your packet. We're only in, finishing up September, so we're not too far down the line. So everything's looking pretty good so far. I don't know, are there any questions? Does anyone have anything that they'd like me to look over?
Are you talking like the budget versus actual right now?
I'm talking about anything.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, we just finished up our audit here last week. So you should be getting that information shortly too. They didn't find anything as far as I know.
Can you share with the board, you've got a shortfall of 116,000 with a not smiley face?
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. Yeah.
What that is we are short 116,000 of having 6 months worth of excess funds to pay for our expenses. So HUD allows us to have 6 months worth of reserves and not be considered overinflated, and anything less than 6 months is less. But it's just, we have been spending things down. I mean, in the last couple of years, we've had some bigger expenses due to, pest control and stuff like that. So,
And we're supposed to keep it under that 6 months anyway, or 6 months and under, right?
Yep, they do. They fluctuate the amounts because sometimes they had talked about reducing it to 3 months and then we'd be right where we need to be. But I use the 6 month one that they've used for many years to keep a kind of an eye on where we're at.
Okay, thanks.
So this is not frowny face abuse. I mean, because it sounds like it's not a big deal, but you put a frowny face on it. I'm just asking.
Because it was a red.
Because it was red. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, no, that's in its simplest form. You can have that. That's fine.
Is that frowny face part of, is that Gbha approved?
No.
No. Okay.
That was just a fun thing that I learned how to do, write an if statement. Like if this is negative, then we can make a frowny face. If it's positive, we can make a smiley face. So
I can see Stephanie getting excited about if then statements in Microsoft Excel. That sounds
kind of a geek, I know.
All right. Any further questions for Stephanie on the financial report?
Thanks, Stephanie.
All right, then moving on to the Langen report.
That
It's
is in your packet. Yep, just normal background checks. I think we just have one Mason Manor household under investigation right now, but we were able to close out a different one. So if you have any questions.
No, that's good.
Okay. No questions, and we'll move on to the director's report. Sure.
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on for the GBHA. I mean, since I took this thing over, right? We're really working a lot with Baker Tilly right now and trying to define how much money we can put into each unit in Mason Manor. A lot of that depends on how we combine, our properties that we have right now. The news that we could potentially combine our scattered sites into this larger project would allow us to do more things in the units, which is great, and get us the ability to maybe even build on to Mason Manor for some of the amenities for tenants. We sadly, I think, have come to the conclusion that we cannot take the spiral drive off of Mason Manor because there's not enough area on Admiral Court to create a cul-de-sac. So I should take that back. We could take the spiral drive off, but then, Public Works is like, no, you need to have enough space to. So I think we're going to be stuck with our spiral drive, but hopefully with some extra cash influx, we'll be able to maybe heat it again, make sure it's working, because it used to be heated, the floor, right?
Oh, really?
And yeah, and to maybe bring it back up to its glory when it was built. I don't know, we'll do what we can with the spiral drive. The November meeting, we're going to have probably more of the bonding things, I'm thinking, that are going to be coming through at that meeting. And then we also need to have the meeting of the GBHA Properties, Inc. We got to have something. We haven't, that's a mouthful. GBHA Properties, Inc. But my question to you, Bill, is does that need to be publicly noticed like the GBHA meeting?
It's a good question. And I
don't think it
over
hurts,
the years,
right?
right. Over the years, I've dealt with a number of these, and the trend is because they are quasi-public entities to err on the side of transparency and publish everything.
Okay.
Notice the meetings, treat it just like we do us.
Okay.
With the commission, publish everything, all the minutes, all the everything goes in the publication, just like we would normally do.
Okay. It's actually easier to do it that way. So, I mean, that's
yes.
fine. And then what we'll do is we'll set that meeting up much like they do, I think, personnel and finance. They do like GBHA meets, and this one's going to be immediately following the GBHA meeting.
Right.
So as we
end
that one, we'll start the other one and do what we need to do. So it should
immediately following the GBHA commissioners meeting, but at Al's Hamburgers, or
maybe
is that still open?
Sandy, shame on you. Of course it is.
and
you can tell I don't eat downtown.
It's not very. It's also not accessible. The front door is crappy to get into, but the burger is good. And sorry. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing, Cheryl, that I would suggest is that our GBHA commission agenda have an item on there for the Properties LLC report, just so that we overlap the reporting for this, so that we just give whoever the chair of that entity is could give a report, because it's going to be one of us, could give a report as to what that entity has been doing, so that make sure it gets published.
So that would be like under informational, Bill?
Yes,
yes,
just informational.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we need something that indemnifies the two entities from each other? That's a Bill question, and maybe it's for next week too. But like, I think that transparency is great. Like, the more the merrier. I think it's the utmost importance for that scenario. Do we need something in place that is a partition between those two, between us and us?
The legal structure for the organization would do that in part. As an LLC, that would do that in part. But one of the follow-ups for that is once we get this organized, because it's separate from the commission, the LLC may need to get insurance coverage in order to be able to indemnify its members from any liability that might arise. And more so that we're not so much that we would ever do anything that would cause a problem, but if somebody ever sued us, you get the insurance coverage for that. And I mean, that's really the biggest benefit of having insurance is that they pay for your lawyers if you get sued. So, and they pay your judgment if you get sued. So, these days everybody sues everybody. So, we don't have to dip into our pocket to come up with legal fees for self-defense here. It's covered by our insurance company. So that LLC needs to get insurance.
Right. So you're actually taking off a list of questions I have for the attorney that we plan to hire that goes through these processes.
Yes.
How do we separate all of these questions?
I do have to ask that. We are not an LLC. The paperwork that was filed by the attorney that was hired, it's an incorporation, and that's an issue. I'm thinking because we talked about an LLC, so I think that there's different rules that apply. And since I've never done corporate taxes, this could get interesting.
I mean, the same questions would apply whether it's an LLC or a corporation. So, those are things we'll have to work on. And we will have to, on our agenda for that meeting next in November, we would have to put an insurance item on the agenda, just so that we're talking about it. As long as we're talking about it, we're sort of covered under the statute for immunity. So,
Okay.
but we do have to pursue getting insurance.
Okay,
All right.
right, because like they don't have any money. Like
Right.
that newly formed, so it's like how exactly those are
Right,
questions and how we figure that out.
How do we have the housing authority's assets protected from? Right. Yeah. Fun. This is fun. That's as fun as it gets. You guys want to talk about bricks on top of bricks too? I mean, let's do it.
I know I'm building all these synapses in my brain, right? Isn't that good when you learn new stuff? I'm thinking,
Yes. Yeah.
I'm flipping along, so that's good. And then we'll have that public hearing for the bonds. That's going to come up in November. A plan was passed through City Council. That's the Tax Increment District Affordable Housing Plan. So currently we have about $1.1 million in that account that's available for developers to construct affordable housing in Green Bay. So we are pitching that to developers.
Best name plan ever.
So things are moving along. We have a lot of interest in housing construction. We just went into a planning option with a company for East Walnut Street site to do some mixed housing there. And
we are looking at accessibility in those.
I think there are some units they listed. No, I think they listed some units. It's a company out of Milwaukee. Can't remember the name of them, but everybody's applying for tax credits now. So
good. Tell they can have them as long as half the units are accessible with rolling showers.
We're just trying to get weeded to give us some tax credits in Green Bay, right? So
yeah,
luckily the one, but the competitive tax grant credits are coming up. So a lot of stuff happening, but and we also learned, I don't know, this doesn't mean much except we use this person, Vanessa Chavez, who's our city attorney, is leaving the city of Green Bay. So she'll be here, I think, till mid-November. So I want to get this stuff in before she leaves.
Right.
Review all of our attorney stuff. So that's all I've got. Any questions for me?
How are we doing COVID related at Mason Manor? Any issues?
Right now, we actually are. So we are in the process of doing our scattered sites inspections with Brown County. So we've had quite a few scattered site families notify us. Thankfully, they have been COVID positive. So we've just rescheduled based on the time frame. Right now, unfortunately, we have one tenant battling COVID, and it doesn't look very positive for this individual. So that would
scattered sites, Amy, or Mason Manor?
Mason Manor. Right now, we just have one battling it on Mason Manor that we know about. We did check in with family, and it doesn't sound very optimistic. So
that person isn't at the units right now.
Correct.
Oh,
that's too bad.
And that, I guess, that would be our one and only unsuccessful case of COVID here at Mason Manor. So I guess, yeah.
If it happens, hopefully it won't, but
you never know.
Yep.
You never know, right? I know people have been in the hospital a long time and have pulled out.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
If it's not bed bugs, it's COVID.
Yeah.
I just had auditor questions show up in my inbox about the Green Bay Housing Authority.
You're the lucky one.
Had it been 15 minutes earlier, I would have been super confused. Just kidding.
All right.
Super confused.
Any further questions for the director? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to the occupancy report.
Okay,
which is
so
in your packet.
Yep, that is in your packet as well. As you can see, for Mason Manor and scattered sites, October 1st move out was pretty rough on us. We did get quite a few move outs. 2 of our scattered sites specifically are going to be very difficult. I am working with HUD because it's going to take an additional 30 days to most likely flip them. I'm excited to show you before and after pictures of these 2 units. We did have a tenant unexpectedly pass away at Mason Manor, and just normal move outs for October. And then we are kind of creating some vacancies as some of our tenants at Mason Manor have presented a reasonable accommodation request. So they are currently in a small unit and they're like asking to for an accommodation be placed in a larger unit. So we are creating some in-house transfers, but we're just moving forward with that. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Oh, great. Thank
It
you.
looks like you
Any
had,
questions? Go ahead.
it looks like you had 3, was it 3 evictions? Is that common to have that many?
I'm just trying to think of my units. Yes, so or it's not, no, that's not common to have that many.
I think so.
With the HUD moratorium terminating, there were some additional protocols that we have to go through. We can't just do a 5-day notice and terminate leases for non-payment of rent. We did have some for drug-related activity, and a smoking eviction as well. So,
Okay.
So it wasn't as a result of the moratorium.
no, they are not right now for
Great.
non-payment of rent. Yep, because there's it expired, I believe, around October 1st, and so we have to give notice of offering repayment agreements. And then we have to do 30-day notices instead of 5, 14, or 28 days. It's very specific that you have to do a 30-day notice. But yeah, so all of our evictions right now, one for scattered sites was criminal. Then we had drug-related at Mason Manor, smoking.
So are the ones that, are there many that you are looking at evicting due to non-payment?
There's probably around 10 that have balances from the last year or 2, but we are offering them repayment agreements to get them set up for success in the future. And we have referred a lot of our tenants to NewCap for the Brown County relief dollars.
Okay, and if they're people with disabilities, we also have that funding. I mean, not that same exact funding, but we can pair it with NewCap, so.
Mhm.
Great, thanks, Jane.
Any other questions? All right. All right, next item on the agenda is our next meeting date. That's November 18th, 2021. And otherwise, unless there's any further questions, it looks like we are ripe for adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn unless somebody's got something else?
No, I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Terry, are you gonna second?
I'll do the second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Thank you all for all the work that's been done and for your participation this morning, and have a good month coming up.
Bye, all.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. We have to vote.
Oh, yeah.
Aye.
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 I have a question. I have a quick question. Is somebody going to do a independent invite for the blah, blah, blah Inc.?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to
Yeah.
notice it like I do the GBHA. I'm going to do the same things.